Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Hey there, out there in internet land. This is your friend, Charlie Hunter. It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a long while. You know why? Summer intervened. Last time we were here, I think we had hopes that we were going to be returning to some sort of normalcy. We had a little brief window of normalcy, and then it has continued to kind of be like a balloon that can't quite leave the ground, and we've been bouncing along ever since. And now it is getting cold again, and I am not so busy. And I thought it would be lovely to start doing the Reasonably Fine Art Talks yet again. So thank you for joining us. I see Kevin's here, Margina's here. All the old faces are coming back. Welcome, welcome, everybody. I thought we'd start out pretty simply today about talking about getting unstuck, because who hasn't gotten stuck, especially during this last year and a half? Just a couple of housekeeping things. I know Crow Johnson down in Arkansas still has the copy of Alla Prima, so hopefully Crow will be watching this. And anybody who is watching today who would like if you all remember, we have a copy of Alla Prima 2, Richard Schmidt's amazing book about painting that sells for about $100. I have a copy of it circulating. Anyone who is not yet ready to spend the $100, you really should just go ahead and buy it. It's worth it. But if you're not ready to do that, put your name down in the comments and say, I'd like to see that copy Alla Prima. And we will choose one of you. And Crow will send the book on to you, and then you will have it for about a month, and then we'll choose a new name, and we'll go on to the next person. Everybody who has it writes their name on the inside cover, and this is a way, and you can all get paint on it. I don't care. It's all right. Anyway, so if you're into that, put your name down, and we'll choose one of the names. Also, let's see what else. Don't forget, you could always visit hunter-studio.com. That's my small business person website where you can find the materials I use, the paints I use. Or if you order from that website, I get a few dollars to keep the cats from starving. Ladies and gentlemen, to keep the cats from starving. Today, your support of my art has allowed the cats to eat for one more week. One more month, one more hour. So thank you. If you want to see the pure artistic Charlie Hunter experience, just go to charliehunter.art, and none of that filthy commerce will be sullying your views. Anyway, let's talk about getting unstuck, because who has not been stuck at one time or another, and who has not done duds of paintings? Now, you all remember my beloved Betty Sue is working her mojo backstage. She's actually upstairs today, but she'll return to Texas where we'll do the next couple, and then she'll be back here in Vermont. So she's now got a studio upstairs here and in Texas. So Betty Sue is behind the scenes, keeping the slides at bay. And I think it's time, Betty Sue, to put up the very first slide so I can start blathering away. Lipstick on a pig, or getting unstuck. When I was a child, we had pigs. My favorite pig was named Tiger Lily, and I vowed I would never eat Tiger Lily. And then Tiger Lily went off to the slaughterhouse, and Tiger Lily came back in little white packages that we put in the freezer, and I vowed I would not eat Tiger Lily. And then the first night, my mother was making pork chops, and the smell of the cooking pork chops wafted through the house. And I started thinking to myself that Tiger Lily's no longer with us. It doesn't make any difference to Tiger Lily if I have a pork chop or not. And thus, I ended up eating Tiger Lily. That has nothing to do with the topic today, ladies and gentlemen, nothing at all. But lipstick on a pig is the idea of fixing up something otherwise very unattractive. Now, one of the things I started to do during the winter of our pandemic, was I was taking Andy Evenson's online watercolor class from the Tucson Art Academy. And it was absolutely wonderful because I wanted to learn how to approach watercolors. And one of the things I started to do partway through the year was to take the techniques I was learning in that workshop and apply them to the water mixable oils that I use. And this would be an example of just pure experimentation, not working from any photograph or sketch or anything, just mark making. And you can see here, it's interesting. It is not. I don't think it makes sense as a painting yet. But this is typical. I've got probably 30 or 40 panels like this. This is, so it's water mixable oil on a muslin panel. I think, so very watery marks up at the top 3/4, and then that bottom 1/4 is just hitting it with the squeegee and stuff, and then just experimenting. So this is typical of what a panel will look like that I'll just put aside. It's one of the pigs, and then I will look at it again a few months, a few years later, and we start applying the lipstick. Betty Sue, let us move on to the next slide. This is actually another pig that has yet to have the lipstick applied. This was just experimenting with making marks, and most of my mark making experimentation, you can see, really is Doug Fryer envy. Up at the top there, that brushwork, the dark marks, that is so Doug Fryer envy. In the foreground, I have no idea what is going on. But this, again, is something protean that I may be able to push into a painting at some point. It certainly has aspects of landscape about it, and possibly I can start by adding more and more paint. It will start revealing to me a possible solution. Let's have the next slide, Betty Sue. Let's have the next slide. This is a pig to which the lipstick has started to be applied. This was a monochromatic, again, Andy Evenson workshop derived water mixable oil experiment. The horizontal brown line is a squeegee mark, and the dark line in front of that is also a squeegee mark, and then that vertical on the right side is a squeegee mark as well. Now, first, it continues to amaze me how graphically interesting pure abstract squeegee marks can be. That brown horizontal line, the thing that defines the nominal horizon, I was not trying to make that look like a Midwestern woods line against a field, but that is how it reads. So consequently, that very much allows us to say, okay, above that is sky. I've done here, the first lipstick on the pig has been a pass with a transparent kind of that pinkish mauve over on the left half of the sky. And then on top of that was a glaze using unbleached titanium and a lot of safflower oil. So it's already starting to get a bunch of layers. And if you keep applying layers of transparent and semi-transparent paint, you end up with really interesting skies. And the brain wants to read what it is looking at as something literal. So half the battle is already won just by putting these marks down on top of pre-existing marks. Again, I'm not saying I am not saying that I have a real vision in place yet. It's not a finished painting, but it is starting to reveal itself. I'm thinking John Constable in the way that the vertical touches against the sky and the kind of roiling nature of the sky. So maybe I'll go look at some old John Constable paintings and see if that gives me another step of inspiration into where this can go. Yeah, the translucency of the sky without getting obsessive about it, without trying to dictate to the painting yet. That's the key thing. Not trying to dictate, but letting the painting kind of suggest. In this one at this moment, well, the glazes that I'm putting on are leftover glazes from other paintings. That's part of the, at the end of a painting session, you wonder, what am I going to do with this paint? Take one of your 30 dead paintings and put the paint down on that. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. This is another one. This is a wood panel, a 12 by 16 wood panel that I did another, that the diagonal that goes from upper right to lower left, that was another Andy Evenson inspired squeegee mark. So it's two squeegee marks, one at that angle and one kind of a pure horizontal. And then I let it sit for 9 months. And then one day I had a wet paintbrush, which is the brush mark in the foreground. And I really love the abstract nature of the graphic abstract nature of the lower left quarter, where the gray brush mark on top of the white of the panel, the brown of the diagonal, and then the horizontal. And on top of that, the sky on this is two passes of, the first one was a very watery, it's kind of the warm greenish gray. It was using probably a little bit of unbleached titanium and Cobra raw umber. And then after that was long dried. That again, another pass of that the pinkish glaze that I had. And that I think is a Cobra reddish violet. And then the down near the horizon was another more recent, in the last 2 weeks, pass with more unbleached titanium, I think some actual white, and I don't know. Again, it may have been some of that that reddish violet. But this is starting to get interesting, I think. I don't know if it will ever be this is imaginary. This is utterly abstract. It may define itself into a landscape, or it may never become a finished painting. That's one of the nice things about these. When they're 12 by 16, you can have a lot of them lying around, and they don't have to become a completed work. I've got a 4 foot by 6 foot painting that is dead, and it takes up a lot of space. So it needs to become a painting. But a 12 by 16, this may always just be something I can refer to as an effect that I'm finding interesting. I'm still kind of scared to walk through the door of purely abstract. And these marks, they don't all line up with one another that well. So I don't view this as anywhere near a finished work at this point. But I do love some of the effects that are happening. The grayish mass of what we might read as trees on the right-hand side against the horizon line, that is the same dark as is in the center or in the left, that dark brown, but it just has more passes of the opaque glazes on top of it. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. This was, let's see, what did I start with here? I think I started with a abstracted barn shape. I think it's really interesting to me that you can put a square at a 90-degree angle. You put half a square at a 90-degree angle, or a 90-degree triangle, I guess. You just put that on a painting near the horizon line, and we read it as a testament to the agrarian lifestyle. This again, not finished, but there's some interesting passages in it to me. I like the mauve gray of the sky and the kind of dark hovering cloud above it. I'd probably put another dark pass on top of the gray on the top third of the painting. I need to define if I'm going to have the barn shape be dominant or the sort of tree shape be dominant. The tree shape, that is the kind of blob to the right of the barn shape, it and the barn are kind of a little too similar in their volume. So they really dialogue with one another. And that space in between that is suggestive of a barn roof is kind of a no man's land, it feels like to me. I've also put these white, the white lines. That's a squeegee with white paint on the blade. And so touching the painting with the white paint makes for that, what we read as snow, I suppose. I've got to figure out exactly whether I'm keeping the one that's kind of in the middle, if I'm reducing that, what I'm going to do with it. But again, this was a panel that I was just making abstract marks, but it is revealing itself to me to be probably an agricultural painting. Though it does appear to have the surf rolling in from the left. We'll have to deal with that too. But this one is fun. I looked at it the other day when I walked into the studio and was like, oh, that's nearly a painting now. That's nearly a painting. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. Okay, this is another pure, this was some stuff I was doing like in February. I think I may have shown this one earlier. It's a 16 by 32. This is just detail of it. Again, this is acrylic ink on squeegee. That's all that is. That horizon line with that detailed farm scene and the hills and the lines of the trees broken and the fields broken by the fence rows. It's just a squeegee mark. I just got out of the way of the squeegee. I just let it do that. Then I was feeling like I was a genius because I was looking at this and was like, that's unbelievable how that looks like a landscape. And it needs a horizontal, it needs a diagonal in the foreground. And so with a brush, I did that mark. Oh, the thing that starts at the middle left and goes over to the lower right and then back over to the left. And I was like, oh, why'd I do that? I hate that mark. I hate that mark. And I love the background so much. And then doing my usual staring at Doug Fryer or Terry Mura or any of the people whose work I love, I was like, okay, I'm going to put in some marks and see where it takes me. So next slide, Betty Sue. So this is where we are right now. It's kind of Wyethie in a graphic-y sort of way. Wyethie, those colors, those browns, reddish browns and gray reddish browns. It feels to me like what I like about it is that the curviness of that foreground gestural line that I put in has been ameliorated by the graphic dark brown. It doesn't have that kind of wimpy curve to it anymore. It's a little too dark. The foreground's a little too dark, I think, for the background. And I can't really make the background darker because the background is that pure abstract squeegee mark. So I consequently will probably need to make the foreground a little lighter. And so what I'm thinking of doing, ladies and gentlemen, is taking a paint roller and making a translucent glaze and rolling the paint roller over those dark darks to see if that unifies it. Again, don't know if it will. Don't know if this will end up being a painting or if it will be something that leads me to what will become a painting. So it's trying to stay out of the way of the dominant, trying to stay out of the way of the evolution of the art while still imposing shards of conscious thought on the paintings. I'm sure you all have many, many works. Do I worry about composition or just pleasing to the eye for abstracts? Pleasing to the eye for abstracts is inherently the composition, I think. Betty Sue, can you step back one to the original of this? See, this one I was thinking about composition because when I put that squeegee mark down, the one that defines the whole horizon, that was one pass with acrylic ink on the squeegee. After I put that down, I was thinking it's a little too even. There's the sky band, there's the land band, and then there's this great, huge white area, the foreground, that has nothing in it. So doing that gesture was an attempt to solve that compositional problem. The fun thing about paint as opposed to computer is you can't go back and say, oh, that step didn't work. I made that commitment, and I think that was a bad decision. So now I have to deal with that bad decision. Step forward, next slide, to the slide we were looking at. This is what I have done. I think it now being more of a line as opposed to a curve, it works better. I think the foreground is, I like the marks there more or less, but I don't like how dark they are. So now I'm going to try lightening and see if that unifies, and then what I need to do. What is the substrate? This particular substrate is pure Gator board. I don't think I even put gesso on this. So probably the art conservators are going to love me in 100 years. The oil paint against the gypsum is going to cause great trouble. Well, as I say, if anyone cares in 100 years, that's a good problem to have. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what I was to finish up today, I'm going to try to keep the ones where I'm just talking a little bit shorter than the ones where we do interviews. But I'm sure you've got scores of paintings that have sort of died on you. And I don't think there's no harm in sanding them down and gessoing over them and stuff. But the failures it's still an investment of time. And I think it makes sense to capitalize on the time that you've already put into the paintings by, it's a world of textures, it's a world of marks. Try just putting some abstract washes, glazes, or even just brush marks on top of dead paintings, on top of those pigs. Put that lipstick on those pigs and just see how that pig goes to market. You might be surprised in a very, very good way. Now, next week, ladies and gentlemen, next week we're going to have the great Terry Mura is going to be with us. And then after that, I'll probably have some more, I'm thinking, in the week or two after that, I will revisit some of these paintings and show you where they have gotten to since then. At any time, feel free to leave comments. If you've got paintings that are in progress, take some pictures of those. Or the pigs you're putting lipstick on, take some pictures of those as you continue on your journey. I'd love to see how it turns out for you. So thanks for joining in. We'll see you next week. And until then, take good care. All right. Bye-bye.